Hello again, everybody. This is Dan Clouser, and welcome back to the Journey My Mother's Son podcast. Today I'm talking with Darlene Greene, who is a health and GHK-Cu and stem cell activation technology consultant and a retired U.S. Navy commander. We're going to talk about a lot of different things, but we're really going to focus on some of this stem cell activation technology, which I think is incredibly interesting. So, first of all, Darlene, thanks for joining me today, and I'm really looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Jen. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Absolutely. So before we get started, just introduce yourself in your own words. Who is Darlene today?
Well, Darlene Greene started off 20 years in the Navy, had 3 commanding officer tours, the last one with 1,200 people I oversaw, and created a program to help better support our military as they were coming back from war, as well as their family, called the Returning Warrior Weekend Program, that is still in existence today, 17 years later. Very proud of that. It was very intrinsically rewarding to be able to help our military and their families in the return, who were suffering from so many different things. Then went into network technology and was overseeing project managers and architects and engineers. Then went into software technology and was a vice president for McAfee. Then became a dean of a boarding school because my daughters wanted to go to this boarding school in the middle of a tiny town in Indiana. And we moved there with them because that was not happening where they left me during high school. That's way too early to leave the nest from my perspective. So moved there, didn't expect to become the dean of the boarding school, didn't know what I was going to be doing actually there. It was the first time in my entire career path that I was just like, I'm moving here solely for my family and I have no idea what I'm going to do. But ended up really enjoying being the dean there. That was a leadership school and an amazing school. Did some consulting as well after that for a startup in San Francisco where I helped them with leadership and communications, teaching people how to hold other people accountable and helping them grow the culture the way they wanted it to be. And then when my daughter, my youngest of the 2 daughters, was ready to graduate from Culver, moved back to Arizona, which is where we originally went to Indiana from, and was always where we wanted to finally settle, where my mom and dad are, and my sister, and just family. So came back and became the director of client services for a network and technology company, great company called High Tech Networks and Security, and I oversee the program management office. And in the more recent, distant, like the last several years, is when I've really had to deal with the travesty of my husband being diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And that's really the beginning of our story, Dan, when we talk about stem cells, because when I looked around to figure out what could we do for him, even the latest and greatest drug caused brain bleeds in 50% of people with my husband's APOE44 type. There were no good medicines. The medicine that they wanted to give him for symptoms has been shown in a pretty big meta-analysis to progress the disease potentially faster. So that's not a good option. Everything I looked at pointed to stem cells. So we started by going out of country 4 times in a year to get stem cells. And and not just for him. So he has Alzheimer's, but I've been suffering. I didn't make very good choices in husband number 1 or number 2. I attribute them for my autoimmune disorders. First thyroid, then chronic fatigue syndrome, then fibromyalgia, then POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia, and PTSD, and some other things. They were both emotionally and physically abusive, and I got out as quickly as I could, but I was never, ever, ever going to get married again or even date again for a really long time. And Jim, my current husband, was just a gift from above and just a beautiful human being and godsend to our whole family. So he and I have been together really 20 years, married 16. But all that to say, when we began looking for this, the stem cells were for him, for the Alzheimer's, and for me to try to keep from fainting. One of the things that POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia, does is it causes you to just pass out and you black out and you faint. And once it starts, it's really hard to stop. And they actually were giving me a medicine to increase my blood pressure to keep me from passing out. That
Wow.
sounds like a bad idea right from the start. So nothing really improved. Not for him, not for me. His steep neurological decline continued. We tried other things like hyperbaric chamber. We revamped the diet. We followed the Dr. Bredesen protocol, which is extensive and certainly cleaned up, no alcohol, no soda, no white flour, no white sugar, nothing that's genetically modified, nothing that has toxins in the brain, really only good oils like avocado and all extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil and some of those things. So that didn't help really either. We exercised, we're working on getting good deep sleep, you name it, we were trying to do it and nothing was improving until we were at a point where Dan, I really had lost him. He was disengaged from conversation. He was a shell of his former self. He was sleeping 3.5 hours a day. He was falling asleep at 7 o'clock at night, even when he'd had a 3.5 hour nap. Engaging in conversation just seemed to be too challenging for him. And the core to his personality and what really caused me to fall in love with him was he has this amazing sense of humor. He's just funny. He's naturally funny and he makes me laugh all day, every day. And he had stopped even making attempts to try to be funny, where previously at the beginning of the disease, he would try and he would maybe fail. He wouldn't find the right word or the landing wouldn't be quite right, but he was at least still trying. When he stopped trying and he stopped engaging and he wasn't even talking anymore, I was really sad. And actually, I fell into a pretty significant depression. So it was a blessing when I had a friend who said, I know you've done stem cells out of the country. I am using a product that elevates GHK-Cu, which is your copper peptide. No, most people haven't heard of it. I hadn't heard of it. And what that ends up doing is actually activating and elevating your stem cells, your own stem cells. And I was like, okay, I mean, I have nothing to lose. I have everything to gain. There's a money back guarantee. I'm willing to, obviously, I've tried a lot of things that are out there. So yeah, let's give it a shot. And I mean, within the very first week, he didn't sleep at all. He didn't fall asleep at 7 o'clock at night. He was engaging. It was like a dam broke. And all of a sudden he was talking and chatty and with it and replying appropriately in conversation and was not asking me the same questions over and over again. Thank you, God, because that's not an easy thing for a care provider. But he was funny again and he was flirty and he had his personality back. I got my husband back in the first week.
Wow.
And he experienced the best sleep of his life. The second week we've been working, we had put red lights in the bathroom. We were dimming them at night. We were using the right glasses. We were not eating 3 hours before bed. We were getting our eyes on the morning sun, all the things you can do to improve deep sleep, because that's when the brain flushes toxins. And we were still at like 15 minutes of deep sleep. So I was so excited when the second week he got an hour and 25 minutes, best recorded deep sleep we'd ever had for him. And then at like about 2.5 months, he regained the ability to whistle and to drum to the beat, both things that he had lost. His blood pressure dropped 37 points.
Wow.
And they had wanted to put him on a medication, but I was against it. Because and one naturopath said, no, he actually needs blood to get to his brain right now. This is not the thing to do. But at the 5 month mark, he actually regained his sense of smell. He had lost his sense of smell 15 years ago. It's actually an early warning indicator for Alzheimer's. Didn't know that then, now
Hmm.
know that. And his bald spot closed up and we've got fresh brown hair. His hair is so much darker. It was gray before, it's all brown now. And I had a not too dissimilar experience. It obviously not the same things, but what happened for me is I had been in pain. I had part of my depression came from I'd broken my foot, I'd sprained my ankle. I was in a chair. I wasn't able to do the typical coping mechanisms that I had as a care provider to keep me kind of sane and functional. And so I couldn't walk around the neighborhood. I couldn't play pickleball. I couldn't exercise or even get out and socialize. So I had just sort of, my whole world came down to me sitting in this chair. And when I would ask Jim for a glass of water, he would just look at me like, I don't know what you're asking. I don't know how to do that. And so it was up close and personal how bad it was. It was the first time I was ever asking him to do anything for me. And so it was pretty heartbreaking. And I was in a pretty pretty intensive state of depression. I was wanting to cry every day. I wasn't necessarily, but I wanted to cry every day. And my foot hurt. It had been hurting for 5 months. And so I had amazing success, one, getting out of pain, because we have patches that are for pain, removed it better than anything, better than Percocet, better than Vicodin, better than anything I have ever used. And I can't even believe it exists out there, and people that are in pain don't know about it. And I'm pretty salty about the fact that I didn't know about this many years ago when I did all this research to try to figure out what was going on, what was going to be helpful. I don't understand why this isn't more readily available in terms of information. But I immediately, my depression lifted probably in the first 2 weeks. I was just all of a sudden joyful again. I had much more energy. I was getting better sleep, waking up before the alarm clock. And over time, wasn't having the regular headaches I had, wasn't having the body aches from fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome, was staying healthy. I had rosacea that was pretty severe and had been seeing dermatologists for years and years and years and years. And everything they tried to give me just lit my face on fire and wasn't helpful. And my rosacea cleared up in 3 months. I don't have to take this medicine called fluticasone that helps me from passing out. I haven't taken any of it in 8 months that we've been doing the patching. My skin is soft. I lost 10 pounds effortlessly. I'm no longer stress eating. I mean, just all of these wonderful things. And after the first week, I'm like, Mom, Dad, sister, you guys have got to try this. This is unbelievable. And they had their own stories. My sister's 6 years with microscopic colitis, and she'd had IV stem cells, and she had antibiotics, and she'd had steroids. Nothing touched it. And in 3 weeks, her microscopic colitis cleared up. And other, fibromyalgia for my cousin, and severe suicidal depression for another family member cleared up. So really amazing stories. And when I then, obviously I actually jumped into it before I read, there are over 90 clinical studies. I jumped in early because I didn't have anything to lose. And there was even a money back guarantee. So why not? But when I found out that over 300 Olympic athletes were wearing our patches in the 2008 Olympics, I was like, what? How is this possible? So now the patch that actually activates your copper peptide and then your stem cells, and the reason I have to talk about the copper peptide, Dan, let me just explain, is that the FDA recently came out and said your stem cells, including the ones in your own body, are a drug. And so even though we have double-blind placebo-controlled studies and a patent that says that wearing this little patch will elevate and activate your stem cells, I can't say that. So I have to talk about it elevating and activating copper peptide, GHK-Cu, and then activating stem cells. So you can actually Google in PubMed the GHK-Cu peptide, and you'll see all the neuro benefits, also anti-cancer benefits, a host of protecting lung cells, brain, nerves, heart, all sorts of amazing benefits. But so this patch, in one study, and I got to see this and I got to experience this in a 2019 Cytech study. You can actually see an EEG of a brain, and the first picture shows it sort of red and cloudy red with not really many other colors. And that's really not a good sign. That's hypercoherence, which is not good communication between the left and right hemispheres of the brain. That's inflammation, anxiety, PTSD, depression, not a good functioning brain. In the second EEG that they did, it was 3 weeks after wearing the one X39 patch, which is the one that elevates and activates copper peptide and activates your stem cells. Different patches do different things. This is the patch, though. If anybody just did one patch, this is the one that anyone would do. They found that it changed the map of the brain. So all of a sudden you've got the blues, the greens, the yellows coming in, the really healthy colors, and you're starting to see people report out, I'm remembering better. I'm able to focus. I'm calmer. And at the 6-week point, you have a whole new brain map. And I actually have a picture of that study, the brain slides on my website that people can see. But what they found in the study, yes, it increased GHK-Cu, which comes with a host of benefits, but it also supported cell and nerve regeneration. So imagine for both my husband and for me, what a difference that made. it balanced the brain, it improved coherence, it lowered anxiety, it improved the nervous system, it decreased brain inflammation, and it improved things like memory and focus and brain function and task processing. All of those things were improved. And so I got to see that with my husband. I got to feel it myself. And yeah, I just love this. And so initially, this was all about what can I do to help my husband? And now it's more like, well, look at all the other people that are where I was 2 or 3 years ago. If I would have known about this 2 or 3 years ago, we would be in a very different place today than we are. My husband has had a lot of progress, but he still very much has Alzheimer's. He's still very much like an adult toddler that needs to be taken care of 100%. And as a care provider, that is really hard. And I sympathize with everyone who's going through any kind of care providing because it is not for the faint of heart. So it has helped me have the energy, the empathy, the sensitivity, just the calmness to deal with being a care provider. And it's helped him just be happier and functional and himself, even if he doesn't remember everything anymore.
Yeah, that's amazing. So is this a product that you need a prescription for from your doctor?
No, let me tell you how the product works, and let me show you one actually. It looks like this. It's a tiny little quarter-size patch. So if you know how, Dan, when you go outside in the sun, your body makes vitamin D. The sun hits your skin, sends a signal in your body, let's make some vitamin D. Or melanin for a suntan, right? It's that, it's that approach. Only what if I looked at you with night vision goggles, I would see light inside of you. You have light inside of you. And so what this patch does, and this is just ingenious, is it's like a little mirror. There basically are nanocrystals that are protected inside a hermetically sealed, um, like a Band-Aid, essentially, and it reflects your own light back into you at a very specific wavelength in order to elevate that copper peptide and then elevate your stem cells. And, I didn't know this, Dan, and most people probably don't, but when you're 30, you have your stem cells in there, but half of them are dormant and they're not doing anything for you. And when you're 60, they're almost all completely dormant. So what this does is it wakes them up and it activates them. And stem cells are the body's raw materials. They can become anything. They're what made us to begin with. So they can be muscle or bone or cartilage, brain or lungs or kidneys, anything at all. In fact, there was a study that was done on the heart where every 6 weeks wearing this patch, the cardiovascular system became 8 weeks younger. So 6 weeks wearing it, the cardiovascular system became 8 weeks younger. And this Dr. Harmon, who wrote a book called How to Reverse Aging, A Comprehensive Guide to Copper Peptides, he actually had a right branch bundle blockage. There's nothing you can do for that. They will tell you there's no medicine, there's no heart surgery operation, nothing. You're just going to die early. After 14 months of wearing the patches, he found it was no longer there. It was just gone. And so what this is doing is it's called photobiomodulation. And nothing is entering the body, nothing. So that's why the Olympic athletes could wear it. There was no medicine, no stem cells, no, just reflecting your own light back into you at a very specific wavelength. And each patch that we have, there are a variety of patches in the arsenal. Each one does something a little bit different. So for example, the X39 is the one that everyone should start with, but there's another patch called Eon that is an anti-inflammation patch. And this used to be the #1 selling patch before the X39 came out 4 years ago. And what it does is it reduces inflammation. It reduces cortisol. I mean, we are all suffering from the impacts of stress. So imagine something that balances the autonomic nervous system. And the thing I didn't know, it's actually kind of affectionately called the happy patch because it calms the brain and elevates DHEA and it makes people feel happier. But inflammation eats stem cells. So when you are elevating and activating them, if you have a ton of inflammation, which anybody in pain does, or anybody with certainly anyone with Alzheimer's has, anyone with an autoimmune system has a lot of inflammation. And you just, I mean, we all do. We drink the water, we breathe the air, we eat the food. All of these things have toxins in them that cause inflammation. So the inflammation eats up those stem cells, even the ones that might be activated. So I really like what's called the dynamic duo, which is the Eon anti-inflammation patch and the X39 patch in combination together. People see much better results. You don't have to, you can just do that one patch and no prescription, no contraindications, no impact to pharmaceutical drugs. Like people can stay on their course of medicine. But I will say this, you know, my personal experience with people that are on the patches is they stop using as much thyroid medicine because their thyroid begins functioning better. They don't need cholesterol medicine anymore because their vascular system improves so dramatically that they don't need to take it anymore. They don't need to take blood pressure medicine anymore because just like my husband's blood pressure dropped 37 points, their blood pressure begins to be regulated. It's basically your own body optimizing your own organs and systems for better health. Your body has an innate wisdom in it and it knows how to heal itself, but we just need to give it those stem cells to help it do it, right? And then once you've activated, most people, they say wear them a month for every decade you are old, and that will activate and re-energize all of those, the copper peptide and then the stem cells, right? And but most people feel so good on it that they never really want to come off of it. They're like, no, why would I ever want to age properly? Let's just keep reverse aging and let's keep, and I really think that I'm not passing out or anymore because it's helped my whole cardiovascular system, whatever the problem was. I don't think doctors know what chronic fatigue syndrome is. I don't think they know what fibromyalgia is. I don't think they even really understand what causes POTS. They put a label on this disorder. They call it a disorder. You're going to have this for life. There is no cure. We don't know what to do with you. Here, try these medicines. And I'm not very pharmaceutically inclined. I don't like all the side effects of pharmaceutical medicines. I mean, I have a naturopath who swears that Alzheimer's has been created by the cholesterol and blood pressure medicines. He believes that we're creating our own epidemic, and that's the byproduct of it. So I'm one of those people who has been seeing alternative and integrative medicine, functional medicine doctors for many years because Western medicine said, yeah, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, POTS, sorry, nothing we can do here, take a pill. I'm like, but I have no symptoms of any of those now. I don't claim, I mean, I'm not going to claim that I ever had them. That's just what doctors said. And I don't own the labels and they don't own me.
Yeah, and I think that is definitely, the philosophy of Western medicine is, give everybody a pill for something, but we don't really take into effect what the side effects of those are. And, all of a sudden you have this whole, cocktail of, pharmaceuticals that you're taking and have no idea how they each interact with each other, and then cause additional side effects that just one may not cause. And that's really a problem with the way our healthcare industry operates. It's really not looking at, um, you know, making us healthy. It's just treating our symptoms.
I totally agree with you. I think it's not a health system, it's a sick system that isn't really looking at how to optimize being well and being healthy. And as an example of that, one of the things I was doing is before I even learned about the patches was elevating my glutathione levels. Are you familiar with glutathione, Jan?
Nope, never heard that in my life.
Yeah, so I will tell you there are books written about glutathione. There's a guy who's called the glutathione doctor who spends every day talking just about glutathione because it's your body's master antioxidant and it's your immune booster. And as someone who had 3 autoimmune disorders and stepping into a pandemic, I was all about like, what can I do to help my body protect itself through this pandemic? And so I was boosting my glutathione levels with IV and oral glutathione. And then I found out that the IV glutathione, which was very expensive, by the way, but it was increasing my glutathione levels 27% for a whopping 7 minutes.
Wow.
And I think the oral glutathione was actually less, very short half-life. Well, we have a patch for glutathione, and it elevates your glutathione levels 300%, and it keeps it there 24 hours. And so glutathione does everything from protecting DNA to initiating the repair of damaged cells. It is amazing at increasing length of life, including the fact that the people who live the longest in the world, those that are in the blue zones, have the highest levels of glutathione. When you look at 100-year-olds, they have high levels of glutathione. And it does everything from increasing cartilage. There are sports medicine doctors that are using glutathione to prevent knee surgeries. In fact, they did a study, and I can't remember how many were in the study, but they basically put an anti-inflammation patch and a glutathione patch on the knees of someone, all of these people that had to do surgery. They were basically all going to have a knee surgery. And they didn't have enough cartilage, and they were bone on bone. Well, and they used the stem cell activation. I can't call it the stem cell activation patch, the patch that elevates and activates your copper peptide and activates your stem cells, X39. They used that as well. And what they found was after, I think it was just 2 or 3 months, none of them needed the surgery after all. So, I mean, I love it. Even does things like glutathione protects the myelin sheath, which is, if anyone has Parkinson's, that is the reason the symptoms occur, is that the myelin sheath breaks down. So by protecting the myelin sheath, they've actually seen reversal of Parkinson's symptoms. I have a very dear friend of the family. She started the patches right when, a little bit after me, because we introduced her to them, but she has tremored violently since she was 5 years old, where she couldn't hold a fork without like holding her hand, or even a glass of water, or water would fly everywhere. And in 3 weeks, her tremors were so dramatically reduced. It was just phenomenal. And it was funny because she was the biggest. We were all sort of skeptical. I get it. I mean, we're, what do you have to lose? But what? Surely, how can this little patch? It just sounded incredible. We were incredulous. We just couldn't believe it. So she came over after 3 weeks, and she's just like, okay, I want every single patch. I have 4 friends. I want to sign up for this because they all have their health issues. And there's just no health issue that this doesn't help out. I mean, all of us have an issue. So many people, very few, even if you don't want to age, you want to activate those stem cells and you want to stay healthy, even for prevention's purposes. But everybody from the woman who had 2,400 days of migraines after a very bad brain surgery that went wrong, and Sluder's neuralgia. She was in excruciating pain, and she put the ice wave patch on, which is the pain patch I told you about that works so well for my foot, and the X39, that stem cell, that copper peptide activating stem cell activating patch. And in 5 minutes, she put an end to 2,400 days of migraines. And has been migraine free since. So it's just changing people's lives. People that had bulging discs. There's actually a picture you can see on my website of the bulging discs, and doctors would tell you there's nothing we can do for that. There's no surgery that can fix bulging discs. There's only medicines that become less and less and less effective over time, or cortisone shots to help you with the pain, and those are actually tear down some of the tissue. So those aren't really a great option either. But there's another picture that shows after, I think it's like 14 or 16 months, that whole area looks completely healthy, and the 4 bulging discs aren't bulging anymore, because what can't stem cells do? They can do anything. And so one of the best things that I love doing right now is sharing this, because I wish I would have known about it 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
And I'm a bit mad that I didn't know about it 2 or 3 years ago. And somebody out there, lots of people actually out there, people that are suicidal, people that are depressed, people that are anxious, people that are nervous, people that are in pain, people that don't want drugs, people that are on any kind of heart medicine, people that are, think of all the people that are not getting good sleep, that need good energy, all the people that are living on caffeine. And we have the very first patch was called the Energy Enhancer. And it was 20 years ago. There are a ton of studies showing how it improves your energy at a mitochondrial level. So not only does it help you burn 300 to 600 more calories a day, but it is actually producing more energy from fat burning by improving the mitochondrial function. And what they found was, this is the one that all of the Olympic athletes were wearing, because the very first time the Stanford swimmers, six out of seven swimmers, the first day wearing the energy enhancers, they broke their personal best record, which in some cases was an Olympic record. I mean, we're not talking just, your fly-by-night record. These were the top team. These are Olympians, and they broke the record. And that's why the Olympic team, all of the swimmers in the Olympic team were wearing these patches. And there was a big investigation. What's in this patch? What is it doing? What's going in your body? And they found out nothing is going in your body, and it's perfectly clean. But it was a bit of a scandal for a while. Were they going to get to keep their medals? And yes, they were, because in fact, nothing went into the body. So they were fine. But there are so many people living on caffeine and addicted to energy drinks, and they don't have to be. They can just actually light up their own body and have their own energy created in a healthy way that's helping all of your organs and all of your systems.
So how does it work? How long do you wear it?
Yeah.
Does it have to be in a spot where it has to be in the sun when you're outside, or?
No, because you have the light inside of you, so it's just reflecting your own light. So there are most of the patches are best worn during the day because they give you energy, like X39, and you wear it 12 hours on, and then you take it off for 12 hours. And the reason is not because it doesn't still have a little life in it, but because you could get attenuation, where it just sort of your body stops responding to the signal if it's getting the signal around the clock. So you wear them, most of them are placed along energy meridians or acupressure points. The pain patches are obviously wherever you would have pain. It's funny, I put my night patches on. I have a couple that I wear at night, a carnosine patch and an Alavita, which improves the organs. And carnosine is amazing for brain and heart and tissue repair and all sorts of things, including muscle building. But I put those on when I go to bed, and then I take them off 12 hours later in the morning. So I actually didn't put them on till I think like 9:30 last night. And so sometimes I wear them on my forehead. Sometimes I just wear them below my belly button. There are places that have been tested in labs, and those are a great place to start. But you can experiment, because sometimes certain places will work better for you than other places. Every body is different. But you wear 12 hours on, and then you take it off. And most of us will put them on, the leftover patch we'll put on a pet. It's really good for animals. There's a whole line of product for our pets called AccuLife. It's equivalent of the IceWave pain patch that is for people. So you don't actually have to buy the one that's just for animals. You could just put your regular human ones on the animals. But we have there's a picture of a dog that had glaucoma, and after wearing the patches, the dog no longer has glaucoma. And you can see the difference in their eyes on my website. There's a picture. You can just see that it's gone away. But yeah, you wear 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and that's really it. I will go work out in mine. I'll shower in them. If you're sweaty when you put them on, they won't stick and stay on as well, and then they'd come off in a shower. But if you have a dry, clean skin when you stick them on, they're pretty durable. I mean, they were intended initially, the first beta testers were swimmers, so they're pretty, and actually developed. The whole invention was developed by our inventor David Schmidt for Navy SEALs. The the government asked David to invent this for something for Navy SEALs, because they were staying up, all hours of the night and day and night and day, and they wanted something that was better than using amphetamines and the drugs that they were using. So they asked, and he created these energy enhancers. And so I love that. Just being a Navy retired commander, that makes me really happy. I love that the company, our inventor, has over 150 patents, over 90 clinical studies. In fact, the inventor David Schmidt was awarded the Advanced Technology Award from the International Hall of Fame, not once, but twice. And we have distribution in over 70 countries. So this is, I mean, we actually have a manufacturing center in Ireland. We have one in California and Utah too, but we're distributing to South Africa, to England, to, all sorts of places all over the world. And I love that. Japan, just lots of places, which doesn't happen if you don't have a product that works. And I will tell you that the X39, when it came out, the company exploded. So we have been kind of trekking along at, I think, about 30 million a year. And then X39 came out and it became like 30 million a month. It's like exploded 20 times in the last 4 years as a result. And there's an anesthesiologist named Dr. Joseph Peck. He says, he's been a doctor for 40 years. He says, this is the most significant medical breakthrough in my lifetime. And I love that. I just wish more people knew about it. And I hope that more people discover it. And honestly, it is a little, it is helpful to have somebody like me who knows what's going on with each of the patches help out, just to say, okay, these were the ones that I'd recommend for you. But if you just did X39, you just need to stay on a little bit longer. You'll garner the benefits over time. It just might take longer. And not everybody's got all the issues that we had and needs all of the patches that we need. But there are things to know, like you need to take a lot of water. You need to drink a lot of water, half your body weight in ounces in water, preferably add some electrolytes. Most people are deficient in copper. It helps if you have enough copper in your body. And if you're not eating enough copper or getting enough copper, you might need a copper supplement, but you don't have to, but it's sometimes helpful. Also, it is one of those things where if you have ever had, most people haven't, but if you've had an organ transplant and you have an organ in your body that is not your own, then you need to be in the careful supervision of a doctor, because this is going to boost your immune system. And usually people that have organs that aren't theirs have immune suppressant drugs, keeping their immune system down so it doesn't attack that new alien organ, right? But other than that, we have everything from kids to pregnant women wearing the patches, that they're just like eating a salad or getting a little sunshine. They're completely healthy. There can be some side effects of detox. Like I have seen some detoxification, the body starts to dump toxins. And if you're not drinking enough water to flush it fast enough, then you might need to slow down the process. And maybe you don't wear it 12 hours. Maybe you wear it 6 hours until you can work your way up, because you don't want to dump more toxins faster than you can flush them.
Yeah. So after you wear it for 12 hours and it's off for 12 hours, is it a different patch that you put on the next day?
Yeah. So there are 30 patches in what's called a sleeve. There are 30 of them, and you either throw it away or you put it on a loved one or a pet, right? My sister's little dog bed is littered with them. She just takes them off and puts them right on her dog bed. And actually her dog's digestive tract has gotten better too, which is kind of funny because her dog since birth, and in spite of great different dog foods, has had issues with sort of runny poop a lot. And all of a sudden it's all cleared up and she's got normal movements. So anyway, kind of, we think often that our issues with our brain are all in the brain, but actually there's a lot of information that suggests that our gut is the bigger brain of the two, that there's a gut-brain axis. And for every 7 signals that for every signal our brain sends to our gut sends 7 signals to the brain. So what we eat matters, our microbiome matters, our gut matters. And fixing the gut and GHK-Cu really does help the gut lining, gut health tremendously. And before the patches, people could get GHK-Cu through injections. And there was one doctor who said, she was experimenting with her patients, and 4 injections of GHK-Cu a day were not creating the equivalent elevation of GHK-Cu as one of our patches of X39. So you can do it any way you'd like. There are even creams that people have that are GHK-Cu for faces, because it's known to reduce fine lines and wrinkles and increase collagen. And, but I actually don't, it's nice to look younger and have fewer lines and wrinkles, but collagen is the most abundant protein in your body. And actually, the wellness of collagen through your whole body in every single cell is what matters to me. So, lines and wrinkles are a reflection really of how are my inner cells doing, and are they healthy and thriving? And I like that I know that I'm getting collagen throughout my whole body as a result of my glutathione and my X39.
Yeah. So I want to kind of roll back a little bit, just talking about applying it to a dog or a pet. Um, they're hairy. So how do you do that?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I should have said this. You don't actually you don't actually have to have it touching your skin or I could actually put it on the outside of my clothing, on the outside of a sweatshirt even. And it can face any direction. So if you have a collar on your dog, you put it, you can just stick it to the inside of the collar facing away, and then it's going to be fine. Or there are some people who have um, they're like little vests, and they can just stick them on the outside. They can stick it on the inside. They can, some people just put it right on the top of their head. And then just are very careful when they remove it. There are people that are putting it on their cat. Some people put it on their wrist and they wrap it with a little bit of vet tape. So then they just can unwrap it with the vet tape afterwards. But there are people that I know who will buy these faster for their pets than they will for themselves. And then when they see the results that are happening with their pets, they're like, I guess I should try them. There was a woman who literally had this amazing success with her dog. And she had been patching her dog for a year. And then she's like, I guess I really should put these on myself, try them on me. Yeah, yes, you should.
So I'm sure the $1 million question then for a lot of the listeners is going to be like, this sounds like it's got to be incredibly expensive.
Oh, it's not. I love that it's not. So this is coming from someone who went and spent $10,000 on an IV of stem cells for each person 4 times a year. So that's expensive, right? Stem cell, any kind of thing in stem cells. You go to try to take your own stem cells out, spin them around and pop them back in, and you're like, that's $60,000. So this little thing of 30 patches, this X39, you can get it retail for $150, or you can get it wholesale for $99. $99 a month, and you're getting 30 patches. That's like, less than a cup of coffee a day to activate and elevate and optimize your health. I can't think of that's less than an energy drink. I mean, honestly, that's less than my electrolyte packet the LMNT that I put in my water. So it is not, and the others, all the supportive sleeves can be as low as $49. Depending on how many you're getting. Like if you get 3 supportive sleeves, they're only $49. So my favorite way to start for people, if they're in pain, is to get them like the X39 and the Eon, and then the IceWave if you're in pain. And if you're not in pain, you can literally get 2 X39 and 2 Eon for $299. So you get 2 months supply for $299, and you've got reducing your inflammation and increasing your copper peptide and your stem cell activation. And that's so reasonable. Most people, 80% of people, experience some kind of effect within 3 to 6 weeks. Now, I want to say we experienced something in a week. We were pretty bad off. So it does depend on your health. It depends on what's going on. It depends on where they go. You can't tell your stem cells where to go, right? So they'll go wherever they think they need. And I'll tell you, Dan, I want all of my husbands to go to his brain, but they may be saying, well, Darlene, your husband did 30 years in the Navy, was a naval aviator. We're starting with his liver. I'm like, okay, I can't say where to go, but that's why the supportive sleeves help direct into certain areas. So yeah, I love that. From my perspective, they're very reasonable. And honestly, for someone who really can't afford it, they could buy in and refer like 3 or 4 friends that would pay for their patches, and then they could buy their patches. So there's even a way for people who really don't have any income to be able, there's an income opportunity for people. There's a business associated with it. And I'll tell you, the very first time my person introducing me to the pouches said, are you interested in doing this as a business? I said, absolutely not. I have a full-time job. I have a husband. I'm a full-time care provider. But what happens is when you're getting these amazing results, you can't shut up about it. You're like, I feel when I'm driving down the road and I see somebody on crutches or in a wheelchair, it's all I can do to keep from pulling over and going, I can ice wave patch you and I can take you out of pain and it will be so nice. You won't have to you won't have to have any drugs. It's the best thing ever. I'm kind of like a lunatic over it now because I see people that are sick or my normal day-to-day job, someone tells me that they've got high blood pressure or they've got a heart issue or they've got an illness. And I'm just like, oh, I just want to patch you. I just want to give you free patches and patch you.
It's amazing. I mean, it sounds like an incredible product. Just with what you've talked about, um, it does make you wonder, like, why isn't this information more
Yeah.
available?
Yeah, Dan, I'm right with you. I mean, anything that upregulates and downregulates genes ought to be in the news. And when you have this patch that's actually resetting 4,000 genes to their younger, earlier, healthier state in the first 24 hours, that's a big deal. That ought to be on the front page of the news. But if you're asking me why, I think it's because, Big Pharma's in bed with FDA and FDA and Big Pharma own media, and they don't want you to know about something that could take you out of the Big Pharma, self-fulfilling, self-licking ice cream cream. So I just don't, I think it's a little suppressed. And as we now can't even say that it activates stem cells, that's just another indication for me that they don't really want you to know. When people can't even say that taking an extra vitamin C helps you to prevent, contracting a virus, any virus, without getting that taken down from YouTube, you got to realize someone owns the communication system and is preventing really healthy information from getting out there. And that makes me sad. I mean, NAC was pulled off the shelves. It's the precursor for glutathione. So there are things that people you have to go digging for it now, and that does make me sad. But you can Google in PubMed, and you can Google GHK-Cu, and you can see all those benefits that I was talking about, and I mean substantial benefits, like anti-cancer. I kind of mentioned it, but it resets the programmed cell death of human cancer cells. They've done trials with neuroblastoma and leukemia and breast cancer cells, but it doesn't affect healthy cells. It actually inhibits the things that are promoting cancer, and it repairs damaged DNA and resets those genes to a cancer inhibition state. So I encourage people to do that. There's a dear friend that's a doctor. She read every one of the 90 clinical studies before she ever started the patches. I didn't. I have since read all of the 90 clinical studies, but I will tell you, she had a daughter that had a brain bleed, and she wanted to see if this would help her daughter, which it has, but she waited 3 months, and she said, my only regret is waiting as long as I did to get us going on the patches. But she loves them, and she's someone who's prescribed, I don't know, how many, she's placed more pharmaceuticals in her lifetime, and she's like, I've never seen results from anything I've ever done that are anything like this. And so she is a huge proponent, and in fact, anyone who would like to meet with this doctor, like people can reach out to me on my website, and then I can set up a consultation with me or with the doctor as well, where you can ask private questions around, well, what about my circumstances with this or that? Because I get that, everyone is unique, and people have different things, and it's not always just about, vanity and skin and hair and wrinkles. It's often about, very serious neuropathy. It's amazing with neuropathy. It's really amazing with a lot of different things. Now, I have to say, LifeWave as a company, we have to say we're not intended to cure, treat, diagnose, or prevent disease, because we're in the category of a Band-Aid. We're a general wellness product. There's no medicine here. So we want to stay in that category because we don't want Big Pharma coming after us, right? We don't want, so we're trying to walk this line around sharing all that we have seen in terms of testimonials that it does without making any kind of medical claims that get us in trouble.
Yeah. So you mentioned about vitamin C a little while ago. By by wearing the patch, do you like should you still be taking supplements like, fish oil and vitamin C and zinc and that sort of stuff, or is that something that can kind of slowly go away as well?
I think it's important that I think diet and exercise are really important.
Of course.
I will tell you some things might be able to go away and some things probably never should. It depends on your diet. It depends on I am trying to get more of those things through algae, actually. I take energy bits and recovery bits, which I love because one little tablet of this energy bit is the equivalent of an entire plate of vegetables, and it's got protein in it and and most of the aminos in it, and it's the most power-packed uh, food. It's raw food, the ones that I'm using. And so I would anticipate, so I just started that probably a month ago, but I would anticipate ultimately not having to take supplements because I'm getting it from food, real food. I wouldn't say you could take or you should take away certain supplements because of the patches. Although I think that we do need to be really careful about supplementation. I'm not sure everyone understands that there are a lot of low grade quality supplements, and some supplements, well, most supplements are actually made by pharmaceutical companies as well. And I don't know that they really know that, external vitamin D is really vitamin D and is really good for you. There's nothing better for you than just getting in the sun and having your body make vitamin D, right? So I'm a whole food kind of proponent, but I also do supplement. I don't do glutathione anymore. I do the glutathione patch. So, in some cases, that makes a difference. I wouldn't, if I had been supplementing with carnosine, I wouldn't anymore because I'm doing a carnosine patch. But I'm still doing other things, zinc, vitamin A, copper, things like that.
Gotcha. So we've talked and covered a whole bunch of stuff here. I think it's fascinating. Is there anything that we missed that you think would be important to the listeners before we start to wrap things up?
Only that, on my website, you can actually see the patent and you can read the 90 clinical studies. You can see doctors talking about it. You can see the inventor discussing how it works. There are little videos. There's a video on that's showing it helping with horses and their pain on the website. People can reach out to me on the website and they can buy the patches from the website. If they don't want to reach out, there are some people who are very private and they just want to do it themselves. If they do that, I will still send an email that says, drink lots of water, those kinds of things. But I think don't, don't assume that your doctor knows what's really wrong with you, particularly your Western medicine doctor. They are trained in medical programs that are built by pharmaceutical companies. The pharmaceutical companies build the curriculum for medical school. And so those doctors, I love them. I have friends that are doctors. They're trying every day to do their best. But what they're trained in is surgeries and pharmaceuticals, and not like how to be healthy, how to stay well, how to optimize your body. They're sort of like the repair center after an accident, and that's where you go, a hospital, when that stuff happens. But if you're trying to stay well or reverse disease, then I think consider alternative approaches and sources, because there are a lot of really good options, this being the best that I know of, and I have tried a lot. I actually have a PEMF, which is a pulsed electromagnetic frequency machine here, that costs the amount of a car. I mean, Tony Robbins is using a PEMF. He calls it his electric taco every day to redo his mitochondria and cells and boost the immune system and help with prevent neurodegeneration and all sorts of things. There are alternate approaches to things that you have been exposed to, but you got to go looking for them. And Dan, I am really grateful to you for being one of those people that goes out and finds information on alternative and all sorts of interesting things. Your podcast is amazing.
Thank you. So, Darlene, how do people reach out to you? Where can they find you if they want to find more information, if they want to talk to you? Um,
Yeah,
where can they find you?
it's so the website is iamreverseaging.com. That's IAMREVERSEAGING.com. And there they can sort of contact me. I'm also on Facebook at Darlene Bennett Greene. There's E's on the end of everything there. There's Darlene Bennett, and then Greene has an E on the end of it. And I'm in LinkedIn, but mostly probably that website is the place to connect with me the easiest. I'm not that big on social media. I'm trying to post. I was the person, Dan, who posted, once when my daughter graduated from the Naval Academy, and then 3 years later when my other daughter graduated from the Air Force Academy, and that was kind of it. That was really it. And so this is new for me to be opening up my life, my story, my world, and even just sharing things on social media. It's very raw, and I'm very impressed and in awe of all of you podcasters, and you open up your whole life and your whole world, and so I'm very inspired by that, and I'm thinking, okay, this could help somebody. Somebody is listening that it could help, and I'm willing to be vulnerable and transparent to help that person.
Yeah, I love that. So, Darlene, that brings us to our final question. As you know, the subtitle of the podcast is Many Little People in Many Little Places, which comes from the opening lyrics of a Michael Franti song, Gloria, which go, when many little people in many little places do many little things and the whole world changes. So it's one of the little things that Darlene does on a daily basis to make the world a little bit better place.
Yes, I will tell you, Dan, I would have never known about this without my husband's serious diagnosis. And so what I hope to be is sort of a light warrior for hope. I hope to offer people hope. Certainly I try to do that by sharing the patches, but really in any day, in any way, whether that's health or just offering emotional support, or just I would like for people to think about the fact that there is always hope, and to try to share that is my best gift to others, because I didn't have hope. And when you are hopeless and you just are watching the loss, and you're grieving the loss of your best friend and your spouse and the angel that you were finally gifted with in this life, it's a pretty sad place to be. And I don't want anybody to feel like that. And so that's what I would like to say, is just please have hope. And if you don't have any, reach out to me and I'll try to give you some.
I love that. I love that. That's a great answer. Darlene, I really appreciate you taking the time. This has been, again, a fascinating conversation for me. I hope, and I'm sure the listeners out there will get a lot out of it. I hope they're willing to reach out to you and explore more about what we talked about. So I really do appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story, and as well as the solution.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for your journey and for sharing your journey and all the great podcast guests that you have on your show all the time. I've really enjoyed listening to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.